Are you ready to dive into the heart of music business? Introducing the Rhythms and Rights podcast brought to you by Samro.
And ask me, what is Samro? I want to go register my music there. If I, like, will I be whatever? And I never know what Samro is. Samro's like God, like it's a mystery. How does it work? How does Samro work, please? Explain it to me.
Join us as we unravel the complexities of music rights management, share inspiring industry stories, and provide valuable insights for composers, authors, and publishers. Each episode offers an informative session on everything you need to know about Samro and the music industry. Stay tuned for Rhythms and Rights, your backstage pass to the music business, only from Samro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rhythms and Rights by Samro. And thank you for joining us, actually. Today, we are going to be talking about a very important issue in the music industry, which is contracting. On the previous episodes, we talked about distribution. We also talked about member services on how to register with Samro. We talked about licensing and how DJs can join Samro in order for them to be licensed. So today we will be talking about contracting, and I have a very important guest with us here, Mr. Bongani Mtagana. How are you doing, sir?
Well, and yourself, Nandi?
I'm well, thank you very much. I just want us to dive into it right away. So as an entertainment lawyer, which we have few of those in our country, what advice would you give to a musician that is starting out in the industry and wanting to come in here? What are the legal things that basic that they need to know?
Well, I always say start by first knowing the two important copyrights in a song. If you don't know those two main copyrights in a song, you're going to have some problems.
Right.
I'm talking about the copyright in the composition, which is the lyrics, melody, and structure of the song. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the copyright in the sound recording, which is a recording that carries that composition. Right. The rights holders in composition are obviously the songwriters or the publishers or the publishers that represent them. And the rights holder in a master will usually be the person who, commissioned the making of the master, which in some instances will be a record label, or it can be, independent artists who own, their own, who pay for making the said sound recordings, and they're not signed anywhere.
Right, that's independent artists.
Independent artists or DIY artists, whatever name we can call them now.
All right. Mm-hmm. So those are the two important laws, copyright laws, that you think they should know.
It's the two main copyrights in a song.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the basic principles of copyright law as they apply to music?
Well, if you know those copyrights, you'll be able to follow the money, and you'll know where you participate. For instance, if you're a songwriter, the copyright in the composition becomes important to you, and you know which organizations to follow and who is going to pay money stemming from the composition and who is going to pay money stemming from the master, which is the sound recording. So another name for the sound recording is the master. We've probably heard everyone always talking about the master, but what is the master? And that's exactly what it is. It's a sound recording.
Now, I know in hip-hop, they're always dissing each other that you don't even own your masters.
You don't own your masters.
So, with that said, what are the key differences between copyright, trademark, and patenting within the music space?
All right. So trademarks protect, basically you are protecting a name.
Right.
That's the long and short of it. You are protecting the name. You have exclusive rights in using the name within certain goods and services, right, in the course of trade. Mm-hmm. So I cannot stop anyone from using the word Apple, but I can if I'm a corporation that makes software and whatever it is that the famed Apple does. I can stop people from using that software or hardware, right? Well, stop them from using the word Apple in the course of trade.
Right.
Yeah, they can't call their goods and services Apple. So people usually misunderstand with trademark ownership. Are you stopping people from using the word? Which is, that's not what's
can't.
happening. We're stopping you from using the word in the course of trade.
Right.
Yeah. And then patenting with the patents protect inventions.
Right.
Right. And then copyright is basically the exclusive rights given to a creator of a work. The exclusive rights to it's many things, including publishing, publicly performing the work, and so forth. You're the only, if you have a copyright in that, you're the only one that can exploit the said work or authorize others to do so.
Talking about copyright, let's pick up on that. What are the key differences between copyright, trademark, and patenting within the music industry?
All right. So trademarks protect names, right? It's the exclusive right in a name you have to use that name within the course of trade. So it's not actually stopping other people from using the name. It's just that those people cannot use their name, that specific name in their business, or to sell their products.
They can't commercially gain from it.
No. And then patents protect inventions, right? And then with copyright, it's basically the exclusive rights that a creator of a work has or enjoys, the exclusive rights to exploit the said work and authorize others to exploit the work.
Nice. So I know in music industry, trademarking is a big thing. Can you maybe give an example of an artist here in South Africa who has trademarked, even maybe if it's their name or something that we can relate to as the audience watching this podcast?
I actually don't. I just did. I don't know if I should even say on here. Probably not. I was going to say the trademarks that I was working on yesterday, but it's too soon to say that.
Yes.
But I don't know who has, taken the steps to trademark. Well, Caspanyo Vest is a good one, but Slailo Suluta is very. He's very good at protecting his name. I think is even the name of the song Trpa is a trademark because it has become synonymous with him. So it's I'm so glad you asked about it because it's an underappreciated baby.
Absolutely.
People always focus on copyright, but not trademarks.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a very big one for me because it's your identity.
Absolutely.
That's your name. With Casper got a lot of I don't know the status of his trademark, but he got a lot of heat for trying to protect fill up. And people are saying, no, but what if I want to fill up my gas? And it's like, that's not, Casper wasn't stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
But all Casper was trying to do is say, you cannot name your event fill up because it has become synonymous with me.
Absolutely.
And that's, I was for it, for sure.
It makes sense.
Yes.
It makes sense.
Yes.
So, what role do collective organizations play in the music industry and how they interact with the music creators in the space?
So basically, to put it in very simple terms, collective management organizations help copyright owners not to authorize the use of the work in a transactional basis.
Right.
So if I wrote a song and Ukhozi or whatever other station wants to play it, they don't have to come to me each and every time they want to play the song to say, Bongani, we want to play it today, can we? They will get a blanket license to be able to play it at any time they want, actually. And then they will pay a license fee to the collecting societies, which will be distributed to members as a royalty.
And how now do CMOs collaborate with international counterparts to manage the copyright of the creators that we represent?
So they usually have reciprocal agreements. So we collect for your people, you collect for ours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's usually the regime that is used.
Like, for example, when we play a lot of Beyonce's music here in South Africa, there is somebody who's collecting for her.
So the collecting societies here will have to then pay the collecting societies that side so that they can pay their members and vice versa.
Same as with Tyler.
Yes.
Do you think that the Grammys would pay some licensing for her? Is that what's supposed to be happening?
Well,
for example,
with the Grammys, it's different. Unless if you're talking about the public performance of whatever, if she performed,
she did perform.
She did perform, yes. Right? So every time that performance airs, because it's her composition.
Yes.
I don't actually know if it's her composition, but let's assume, for argument's sake, it's her composition. Mm-hmm. The collecting society responsible for collecting the royalty that vests in the composition will collect. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. We want the ching-ching.
Of course.
For her. So let's move on to the advancement of the AI. So how does that influence the debate around sampling and copyright infringement?
Yeah, you see, there's a big argument now with the AI because in most instances, the AI is making a completely original song, right? But it has to learn from existing songs.
Right.
Yeah. So the rights holders for those songs are saying, no, but the fact that you have to train your AI model on my existing work is a form of infringement.
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Yeah, and I agree with that argument as well.
So how can creators protect themselves in instances like that? What would they need to do?
Look, it's a bit of a developing area, but what I see that is happening now is that the labels are starting to take down unauthorized, or works that were trained on their works. And they are starting to, come up with licensing regimes.
Right.
Yeah. That if you want your model to learn from our existing works, you need to pay a license.
Right.
So, but there's other things, adjacent to copyright, like, personality rights. Yes, your AI it's a completely new song, but it sounds like me, there's Drake AI now. People have, they're able to look into that from areas of law outside of copyright.
Right.
Yeah, to say this is an infringement of my personality rights. Yeah, I never authorized the exploitation of my personality in this way. Yeah, so there are those things as well.
Do you know if there's any case that has been out there where the creator actually went to court to say, this AI has actually taken from me and they won or they didn't win? Any examples?
Certainly not locally.
Yeah?
Yeah, certainly not locally. I know that there's been a few lawsuits that have now happened internationally when it comes to that. I don't know if they've proceeded to the point of judgment because legal matters court proceedings do take long. But locally, no.
So people are still allowing AI to use their music locally.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about sync licensing. Right. So what is sync licensing and how can creators monetize that, make money out of it?
Yeah. So sync licensing is when the music is used in synchronization with visuals. Right. So obviously the people who will have an interest in doing that are, in film. A lot of music is used in film, games.
Right.
And brands, advertising. It's a very lucrative area, actually, especially on the advertising front. A lot of the time, artists or their publishers will pitch to certain, production houses, or the production house in question will approach you and want to use, your work. But, again, it goes down to knowing those two copyrights. What do they want to use? Do they want to use the master? Do they want to? What often happens is that people want to re-record the songs
right.
so that they get out of paying for the master, which is completely okay. As long as you don't have restrictions in your contract, restricting you from doing that. So in those instances, they'll use the composition, right? But what often happens is that the people who want to use these things, they'll often go to the primary artist. That time, the primary artist may not even be the writer.
Right.
So because they don't understand how it works, they'll say, okay, but this is a artist A song. Let me go to artist A and ask him. And artist A, because he's seeing the money, is going to agree.
Yes.
And then the real rights holders will come and say, hey, I wrote this song. I never authorized it, which is often becomes the problem. So it's very important for the people who want to use music in such a manner to make sure that they go to the relevant rights holders and ask them and say, rights holders, who are the different, and they all have to say yes, by the way. Yeah. If one says no, it's not going to go through.
Can go on.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. And now, if I am an independent artist and I don't have a publisher, but I'm interested in moving into this space of sync licensing, what legal things do I need to know, and how do I go about pitching myself to these production companies?
Well, I'm not an expert in the pitching process itself, but what I often find is that the information is readily available. If you watch Blood and Water on Netflix,
right,
it'll tell you who the music supervisor is. So go to the music supervisors, their details. We live in an internet world. Contact them, let them listen to your music. And make sure that you are able to clear the music quickly, when they want it. Because that's another thing. They move, when they contact you, they already have 4 other people in mind. So you need to, the nice thing about independent artists, they can be one-stop shops, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have to go to the label after you've cleared the composition, because you are the label, you see. Right. So, yeah.
We're having a very beautiful conversation about legal matters within the music industry, where we are giving tips to our musicians, artists, and members of SAMRO on how they can protect themselves going forward. The conversation is actually quite interesting, and I want us to move into a very topical issue, within our country in South Africa. How does the interpolation differ from different sampling in terms of copyright law? And I know that's a topic that you also like.
Yeah. All right. So an interpolation is when one uses an existing composition and incorporates it into a new work, right? And then a sample is when one takes the actual recording. Right.
Okay.
A good way to remember it, I always refer to the composition as the blueprint. If you think of it as a house, if you think of a song as a house, the composition is the blueprint and the bricks of the house is the recording.
Okay.
Right. And interpolation is when I am using the blueprint. Right. And sampling is when I'm actually using the bricks of the house to create a new house with the same blueprint but different bricks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I got that.
Oh, no. Then it's a bad example.
Maybe it's a simpler example, using, saying so-and-so sampled, so-and-so used the interpolation.
Okay, I always go to Whitney Houston and Dolly Parton, right? I Will Always Love You.
Yes.
Dolly Parton wrote I Will Always Love You, right? And Dolly Parton's label at the time owned the recording to I Will Always Love You, and she owned the composition because she wrote it, right?
Right.
Then Whitney Houston recorded it. So Dolly still owns Whitney Houston's composition because it's not even Whitney Houston's composition, it's Dolly's composition, right?
Wow.
But now a new recording has been created, meaning I think Whitney was signed to Arista. Arista will then own the recording of Whitney's version,
Right.
You see, so you see where that blueprint, I'm going back to it. You see where that blueprint comes back now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dolly Parton still owns the blueprint.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but a new house has been created with Whitney's recording, and Arista owns the new house.
Which Whitney was doing is sampling.
Whitney was doing an this is a cover, actually. It's not even, it wasn't even an interpolation. This was an actual cover. An interpolation is when you're using a small part. With a cover is that you're using the entire composition. Yeah.
So I think for me, a sampling would be our own Jabba. Jabba did a lot of sampling. Songs, if I may like to
Yes.
show the example in the differences between those two.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he even called himself the king of sampling.
Sampling, yeah. And I'm only saying this because it's publicly available information. His manager once said it. There were huge issues with that because those songs were not cleared.
That's another issue that we can actually talk about later on.
Yeah.
So what are some ethical considerations related to sampling, and how should artists balance creativity with respect for the intellectual property rights owner?
Well, the rights owner will want to hear what you did with their song. Some people will want to hear if you kept the respect in, and that will inform whether they want to approve the sample or not. So record it, don't release it, send it to the artist, and then that's how songs are cleared.
All right. So if say, for example, I really want to do this song that you have written, but you don't agree with me, should I go on and record it and then maybe pay you later? Because that's what happens in other instances.
It depends if we're still talking about an interpolation or a cover, because with a cover, there's something called a compulsory license, where the rights holder is compelled to grant you the license upon just paying a nominal fee for the mechanical license, but that's it. So you don't have to ask permission for a cover, but you have to ask permission for an interpolation or sample.
Okay. And
which is strange if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to ask permission for using the entire thing, but if you use a small thing, you have to ask for permission.
For the permission. But I guess it's also to protect the rights owner, because there's something called the moral right, where a person has the right to say, I do not agree with how you present yourself into the world, therefore I don't want to associate myself with you.
100%.
A case in point for me is the Nicki Minaj and Ghana, who's the lady?
The lady with the dreads.
Tracy Chapman.
Tracy Chapman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another like a case in point for me where a person can actually refuse, and then we know that Nicki released.
But
in the end, she had to pay. Right.
Exactly. And an artist must be aware that if you continue and you don't ask for permission, you've lost your bargaining power.
Absolutely.
I'm going to come as the rights holder and say, you either take that down or I take 90% of the song. You choose, which is what usually happens. Yeah.
Okay. So what legal considerations should producers and music creators be aware of when using interpolation techniques in their music?
Well, first, get rid of the myths. There's this thing that, if I take 5 seconds of it, it's okay. There's no such thing. There is no such thing.
It's a myth.
It's definitely a myth.
You had it on the Rhythms and Rights.
So you have to ask for permission if you're using someone's work. Oh, and another myth is that, as long as you don't use the recording and you replay it, it's still an interpolation. You're still using someone's composition. So I don't know where it came from that if you re-record it, you're fine. Yeah. You've successfully gotten rid of the master, which is okay. But there's two. This is why I'm going back to our conversation. Those 2 copyrights.
Right.
The composition is still there. The blueprint is still there.
My gosh. I think there is quite a lot that artists need to know when going into the industry, especially with the legal part, because as an artist myself, what I know is that I want to go into a studio and record and leave all these other legal things to either my producer or my manager.
Yeah.
How important do you think artists need to know about these things, and where can they get these informations?
Well, the information, I have Umtagani Attorneys has all this information for free on our website.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I believe Samro as well has a lot of information. In fact, the split sheet, which is the most easiest contract you can get into and most lawyers won't charge for it, is available for free on the Samro website. We shouldn't be having issues pertaining to splits. We shouldn't.
Can you briefly explain what the split sheet is? Because I believe that when we go into these workshops, to do workshops around the country, people don't know what a split sheet. They actually don't even know that there's something called a split sheet that I need to sign before going into the studio. Can you just briefly explain the importance of it and what is it?
So basically, a split sheet is a document that will set out, if there are multiple writers, the percentage each writer holds. And the percentage is important because payment needs to be made in accordance to that percentage. When the song has done well and it has played nationally, and Samro wants to pay the composers, they will pay in accordance with those percentages. Right. But people shouldn't, there's sometimes an over-reliance on split sheets to the exclusion of other things.
Yes.
What is your percentage on the master side as well? Right? Because you performed on that song as well. Maybe it might not be your song, you're a feature artist.
Right.
As a feature artist, what are you going to get from the master side? Right? When your distributor, has made the song available to the different streaming platforms and they collect the money that is generated from the sound recording, how much are you as a feature artist going to get from that money? Right. Even as producers, I find that South African producers, for some weird reason, only negotiate, if they do negotiate, that is, they only negotiate on the composition side. So yeah, how much of the publishing or the composition are you going to give me? But they don't know that they're entitled to producer points. This is a percentage on the sound recording as well.
Right.
Yeah, they don't negotiate on that, and they're entitled to do it.
Okay. You heard it first here on the Rhythms and Rights. So what are the challenges faced by young people or young musicians when it comes to copyright infringement?
I would just say in general, and not even with copyright infringement per se, I would just say in general, there's a knowledge gap,
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with you
Yeah,
there.
these two copyrights that I know I'm hammering them in because they're so important and people confuse them, So at least as a very basic thing, try to understand that because you know what to look for in the agreement. If you're what I find what often happens now is that distributors are seen as less they're more friendlier than labels, right? But people then relax with the agreements. They don't look at things that could jam them up. For instance, do you know that if you take an advance from a distributor and you don't pay it back, your period rolls over. If you were signed for 3 years, that period is going to keep rolling over until your advance is paid back.
Right.
They don't look at such things because it's not a label, it's just a distributor, Some distributors are now actually, some of them are mimicking labels because some of them have the capability, of course, sure.
Okay.
But are you aware that your distributor is also dipping into your publishing? You thought you just wanted a distributor and you're going to share the 30%, 20% with them. But do you know that there could be a clause where they are entitled to be your publisher?
Right.
Such things.
Oh, wow. As a lawyer, what advice can you give to a young upcoming musician that has just made it and they are signed into this label and they get to be given this advance of R1 million, given a house, given a very good car, sports car to say, these are the things that you are going to come into. What advice can you give to that young person to be aware of when it comes to things like advance?
Well, we South Africa doesn't even have the astronomical advances that we see elsewhere anyway.
Right.
But if you do see an advance, and there's nothing wrong with an advance per se, by the way, because it can even incentivize whoever you're signing with, to work harder because they have to make that money back. Just look at your circumstances, make sure that it aligns with your goals, what you want to achieve, and you will be able to pay it back, or at the very least know that a lot of advanced structures mean that you're not going to earn until you pay it back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So can I say, no, I actually don't need the R1,000,000. Don't give me. I'll see what to do. Can I say that? Can I do that as an artist?
Yeah, if it suits your circumstances, you are able to do that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Nice thing is that people like to liken an advance to a loan. It's not a loan because you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
In cash, that is. If the person you signed with cannot make the money back, you'll be in the red, of course, but they're not going to say, "Okay, pay it to me in cash now." See, so that's how
it only means that you'll be just stuck with that label until you pay back that money that they.
It
gave
may
you.
have implications on the term of your
Right,
agreement. Yes.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, how has the prevalence of digital music distribution platforms affected or impacted on the enforcement of copyright? Like, for example, in the Amapiano music, especially with regards to sampling, because that's big over there.
Yeah. Well, I like that now it's easier to enforce your rights in the form of a takedown.
Right.
Yeah, a takedown is a powerful tool to me as an attorney as well on behalf of clients, because I don't have to. Yes, I will eventually approach, if the matter can't be resolved, I'll eventually approach the courts, but I don't have to. I just have to approach the distributor in question, saying that you're distributing a work that I am I never authorized this, And in terms of your own internal procedures, I ask that you take this down until I resolve this issue. And we see takedowns happen. It's painless. It's very quick, and you don't have to pay a cent.
Awesome. At Samro, we've had a lot of our legends coming to us to say,
Yeah.
I actually saw my song being played by DJ so and so somewhere, and I don't even know what to do, but I know that that's my song. So with those kind of people who are not probably internet savvy or they don't know where to go,
Yeah.
would you advise them to come to people like you with these Mtagane attorneys, or they can come to the CMOs to launch a complaint? Who can they go to?
Yeah, it depends. In the circumstances that you have, it's someone that saw someone else playing their song as it is.
No, it's like a remix of a piano song, but
okay.
the sample
Yes.
is somebody else's song.
Yes.
A legend, for example.
Yes, definitely approach an attorney like myself, and we are able to direct correspondence to those people and make sure that we. Nice thing is that a lot of these things do not actually have to go to court. We are able to speak to the infringers and come to some sort of arrangement where the original rights holder can participate now financially into this new song.
Do you have any example that you can give us? Maybe not even mention name, to say,
Yeah.
I've helped how many number of people to actually have a takedown or to benefit into the royalties of that particular song that they've been sampled of.
Yeah, look, it happened. It happened. There was a big hoo-ha when AKA's new album, I think it had Kaifa Semenya's song. Yeah, and I'm sure it was something that was sorted out. But those are the type of things that happen. And sometimes the people who do it, it's just they forget. Right. Sometimes, it's an administrative issue, but you contact them, and one is able to make sure that as I said, the original rights holder can participate in the new work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with that said, what is the potential worst case outcome that a music creator can be found liable for sampling?
Well, you can pay. You're now going to pay damages, right? And the song, I can ask a court to make sure that you do not, exploit that song or distribute it in any form whatsoever, and you still have to pay me damages. And I can ask the court that you pay my legal costs. You see, so there are huge implications in these type of things. Yeah.
That's wow, that's very profound, because as musicians, we never think about these things, that there's going to be repercussions when you do them. You are in the moment of being creative and you just move on.
Yeah.
I think this has been a very informative session.
Thank you.
And to close it off, I just want to ask you randomly, like, another advice that you can throw out there that maybe you think it's important for artists to know within the legal framework of the industry in order for them to produce. I know a lot of artists will say, how can I afford to pay a lawyer? Bongani is going to charge me like 20,000 to speak to him for an hour, So what can people do who may not be able to afford lawyers, but they have issues that they want resolved? Do we have things like pro bonos within the industry, or any other platforms that they can use?
Sometimes it happens that the attorney in question may see the merits and the prospects of success in your matter, and they may decide to work on a contingency basis, meaning that you wouldn't have to pay anything up front, but once we are successful and the money is paid, then the attorney will take a portion of it. But in most instances, the attorney will want to charge for that consultation. And if you're an up-and-coming artist who maybe doesn't have those funds, that's where the information comes in. And one thing that really is dear to me is seeing what sometimes happens is that well-known producers will use, and it's okay, they'll use producers who are less well-known. And what often happens is a trade-off that you're going to use my name for this to be a successful endeavor, which is okay. I don't have an issue with that. But make sure that the paperwork is right as well. Make sure that you know what is going to come to you. How much are you going to participate in that song? And not, like I said, not only from the composition side, but from the master side as well, Because what often happens is that people will have those arrangements, but there's no paperwork in the back end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Bongs, for that informative session. I hope that our artists and musicians will take out something. And we would actually love to hear from you and what you think about these topics that we are talking about. And if maybe you have something that has happened to you that you would like to share, please contact us on the comments and leave us other topics that you would like us to talk about, because this podcast is for you. It's not for us. And thank you so much for joining us. We're hoping to see you on the next episode of the Rhythms and Rights, my tongue, Rhythms and Rights podcast by Samro.
Are you ready to dive into the heart of music business? Introducing the Rhythms and Rights podcast, brought to you by Samro.
Men ask me, what is Samro? I want to go register my music there. If will I be whatever? And I never know what Samro is. Samro's like God, it's a mystery. How does it work? How does Samro work, please? Explain it to me.
Join us as we unravel the complexities of music rights management, share inspiring industry stories, and provide valuable insights for composers, authors, and publishers. Each episode offers an informative session on everything you need to know about Samro and the music industry. Stay tuned for Rhythms and Rights, your backstage pass to the music business, only from Samro.